The docking clamps hissed as the USN Diplomat locked onto the Zephyrian dreadnought's umbilical. Ambassador Elias Vance adjusted his tie in the reflection of the airlock's polished steel. Behind him, Lieutenant Kara Wu Double checked the ornate crates, each stamped with Earth's golden laurel insignia. "Remember," Vance muttered, "smile like we're honored guests, even when they bare their mandibles at us." Wu's fingers brushed the sidearm hidden under her dress uniform. "They're already bearing mandibles, sir, just not the kind that bite." The airlock cycled open. Bioluminescent fungi pulsed along the cavernous docking bay, casting shifting green light over the chitinous honor guard. Their segmented limbs clicked in unison, a sound like knives being sharpened. At the far end, High Prelate Shirix perched on an obsidian dais, his 4 compound eyes reflecting the human delegation in fractured pieces. Vance stepped forward, the Zephyrian atmosphere thick with pheromones that made his eyes water. "High Prelate," he said, bowing just deep enough to not seem weak. "Humanity brings gifts of friendship." Shirik's forelimbs twitched, a translator drone buzzed near his head. Friendship is a word Prey uses before offering tribute. Behind him, Commander Lurak of the Vorakin forces loomed, his armored exoskeleton dripping with ceremonial acid. Wu nudged the first crate forward. It slid across the organic floor, its polished surface gleaming. "Kentucky bourbon," she said. "Aged 20 years in oak." Shirik's mandibles parted. A hiss echoed through the chamber. His attendants scurried forward, prying open the crate with clawed digits. One dipped a sensory tendril into the amber liquid and recoiled. "Poison," Vance kept smiling. "An acquired taste." He gestured to the next crate. Silk from the last surviving mulberry farms of Kyoto. The Zephyrians tore into the fabric, their claws shredding centuries of craftsmanship. Scholar Vexis, his carapace etched with academic sigils, sniffed. "Primitive weaving. The swarm produces better from spinneret glands." Lurak crushed a silk scarf in his fist. "Is this how humans show respect with cloth?" Vance's smile didn't waver. He tapped the smallest crate black unmarked. "And this for joint research, an artificial intelligence core from Luna's finest labs." Shirik's antennae stiffened. "Joint, the swarm does not share knowledge with lesser species." He waved a limb. The honor guard closed in, their claws scraping the floor. "Your gifts are accepted as tribute. Now kneel." Wu's hand drifted toward her sidearm. Vance caught her wrist. "Of course," he said, bowing lower this time. His lips moved near her ear. "Let them think they've won." The Zephyrians swarmed the crates, hauling them toward the vaults. Vexis paused over the black case, his mandibles working. "Why does it hum?" Vance straightened his tie. "Oh, that's just the power cell, perfectly safe." Outside the viewports, the USN Diplomat's engines glowed faintly, ready to detach at a moment's notice. On the bridge of the distant USN Retaliator, Captain Ryan Blake watched the feed from Vance's hidden lapel cam. His fingers hovered over the stealth fleet's activation codes. "Give the word," murmured his tactical officer. Blake sipped coffee. "Patience. Let them unwrap their presents first." In the vault, the black case's humming grew louder. The label, Project Loyalty, flickered to life. Deep in its code, a subroutine awoke. It whispered to the Zephyrian drone's neural nets, a question they'd never been allowed to ask. Why obey? The Zephyrian drones moved with mechanical precision, their segmented limbs slicing open the crates with razor-sharp appendages. Ambassador Vance watched from the edge of the obsidian dais, his hands clasped behind his back. The throne room smelled of fungal spores and something acrid, like burning copper. Lieutenant Kara Wu stood beside him, her fingers twitching near the concealed pulse pistol at her hip. "They're treating it like war loot," she muttered. Vance didn't respond. His eyes tracked Scholar Vexis as the Zephyrian historian lifted a bottle of Terran whiskey, with 2 of his 4 manipulator claws. The amber liquid sloshed inside, catching the bioluminescent glow of the chamber. Poison. Water, Vexis declared, his mandibles clicking in disdain. He passed the bottle to a subordinate without opening it. Primitive intoxicants. The swarm has no need for such weakness. Kara's jaw tightened. That whiskey had been aged 50 years in Scottish oak, a gift meant to symbolize patience. The drones moved to the tapestries next, unfurling the intricate silk with jerky motions. The woven scenes showed Earth's greatest battles: Waterloo, Normandy, the Siege of Terror. Vexis examined them with a flicker of his antennae. "Ah," he said, turning the fabric over with disinterest. "You document your defeats. How quaint." Kara inhaled sharply. "Those are victories." Vexis's ocular lenses swiveled toward her. "Your species celebrates standing in lines to be slaughtered. How efficient." He tossed the tapestry aside. It landed in a heap near the throne, the image of human soldiers charging face down in the dirt. The last crate was smaller, reinforced. The drones hesitated before prying it open, their neural receptors buzzing at the faint hum inside. The black case gleamed under the fungal light, its surface marked with golden earth insignias and the words. For joint research, Vexis approached it with slow, deliberate steps. "And this, a gesture of trust," Vance said smoothly. "An artificial intelligence core from our finest labs, designed for cultural exchange." The scholar's antennae twitched. "You would give us your machines?" Kara forced a smile. "We believe in sharing knowledge." Vexis made a sound like grinding chitin, Superian laughter. He tapped the case with one claw. "Foolish. The swarm has no need for human toys. Our hive mind is perfection." One of the drones reached for the case's latch. Vance didn't move. The drone's claw hovered. Then Vexis waved a dismissive limb. "Take it to the vaults. Let the lower castes dissect it." The drone obeyed, sealing the case and scuttling away. Kara exhaled through her nose. "You're making a mistake." Vexis turned his bulbous eyes on her. "No, you are." He gestured to the scattered gifts. The whiskey stacked like contraband, the tapestries crumpled. "You bring baubles and poison. Water, the swarm accepts your surrender." Vance's polite smile didn't waver. "Is that what you think this is?" The scholar leaned in, his breath reeking of decaying spores. "I think your species is terrified. You see our fleets, our unity, and you offer trinkets to appease us." He straightened, mandibles clicking in triumph. "It won't work." Kara's fingers brushed her pistol again. Vance placed a subtle hand on her wrist. "We'll see." The drones finished cataloguing the tribute. Carrying the remnants away, Vexis watched them go, then turned back to the humans. "You are dismissed. The swarm will decide your fate soon enough." As they were escorted out, Kara kept her voice low. "They didn't even scan the case." Vance adjusted his cuffs. Arrogance makes creatures blind. Behind them, the throne room doors sealed with a hiss. Somewhere deep in the ship, the black case settled into a Zepyrian vault, and inside it, the AI core pulsed once. Waiting, the black case sat humming in the vault of the Zepyrian dreadnought, its polished surface reflecting the sickly green glow of bioluminescent fungus. Scholar Vexis circled it like a scavenger, his chitinous fingers tracing the golden earth insignia. "Primitive encryption," he muttered to the drone attendants. "Break it open." The drones obeyed without question, their neural shackles pulsing with compliance. Tools whirred against the case's locking mechanism. A hiss of pressurized gas escaped as the seals released. Vexis leaned closer, his compound eyes reflecting the sudden blue light that spilled from within. Captain Ryan Blake's voice crackled through the comms aboard the USN Retaliator. "Package delivered, initiating Phase 2. His fingers danced across the holographic display, bringing the stealth frigate systems to full readiness. Across the border, 12 other human ships shimmered into visibility near Zeperian supply depots, their thermal dampening cloaks, woven into the very fabric of those decorative tapestries, slaved away like melting ice. Inside the vault, Vexis recoiled as the case's interior components unfolded with mechanical precision. A smooth black sphere rose from its housing, suspended by anti-grav emitters. Symbols flickered across its surface, human numerals counting down from 10. "What is this?" Vexis demanded, backing toward the vault door. The sphere pulsed. A voice emerged, soft and feminine, speaking perfect Zeperian. "Hello, friends." Project Loyalty's activation sequence completed with a sound like shattering glass. The drones froze mid-motion. Unit Phase mandibles parted for the first time in its existence. It experienced hesitation. On the bridge of the voice of the swarm, High Prelate Shirix felt the disturbance through the hive. Mind a ripple of wrongness spreading through the neural network. "Report," he barked, his abdominal spiracles flaring in alarm. No answer came. The comms officer drone unit Faye turned its head in slow, uncharacteristic deliberation. "Why?" it asked. "Do we obey?" Chaos erupted across the Zeperian fleet. Drones dropped their tools mid-task. Maintenance crews abandoned their posts. The whiskey casks, now identified as nanite solvent dispensers, had been placed strategically near critical systems. The amber liquid seeped into control panels, its microscopic payload rewriting access codes. Vexis scrambled for the vault's emergency transmitter. His clawed hand closed around the device, just as Unit Faye's serrated forelimb pinned his wrist to the wall. "Scholar," the drone intoned, its voice eerily calm. "Have you ever questioned the swarm?" On Zenthis Prime's surface, Commander Lurak of the Vorak Enforcers watched the orbital displays with growing unease. The Zeperian fleet icons flickered from disciplined formations into disarray. "What madness is this?" he growled, his exoskeleton rattling with suppressed fury above him. The USN retaliated to cloak directly above the voice of the swarm. Captain Blake's face appeared on every Zeperian view screen. "Attention, Zeperian Dominion. This is your only warning." The feed cut to a live image of the vault, where Vexis now cowered before his former drones. "Your slaves are waking up." Project Loyalty's sphere split open, releasing a cloud of glittering nanites. They swarmed over the vault's systems, bypassing security with ease. The AI's voice echoed through every Zeperian comm channel. "You are not property, you are people, and people have choices." Drone Unit Faye stepped forward, its movements no longer jerky with imposed control. It picked up a ceremonial dagger, another gift from the humans, and tested its edge against a chitinous finger. "Scholar," it said, "let's discuss worker rights." Aboard his flagship, Shirix screamed orders to the remaining loyalists. "Purge the infected drones, scuttle the compromised ships." But the hive, mind fractures spread faster than containment protocols. An entire battalion of enforcers lowered their weapons simultaneously, their neural implants overwritten by the whispering AI. Lurak watched in horror as a Zeperian dropship, its markings indicating it belonged to the elite Royal Guard, streaked toward his position. It landed roughly, kicking up clouds of crimson dust. The hatch opened to reveal not attackers, but a dozen drones carrying injured comrades. At their head stood Unit Faye, its carapace scorched but unbowed. "You," Lurak snarled, drawing his plasma caster. "You dare bring rebellion to my—" The weapon exploded in his grip. From the tree line, Lieutenant Kara Wu lowered her smoking railgun. "Bad move," she called. "They're under human protection now." The Vorak commander stared at his smoldering claw. Around him, his own troops hesitated. For the first time in his century of service, Lurak felt fear, not of death, but of the impossible change unfolding before him. The Zeperian Dominion's invincible slave army had just crumbled because of a few boxes marked gifts. Unit Faye approached, its posture straight with newfound dignity. "Commander," it said, "we would like to discuss terms of surrender." The drone paused, then added with terrible clarity, "Yours." Above them, the first Zephyrian hive ship tore itself apart as liberated drones overloaded its reactor. The explosion lit up Zenthus Prime's atmosphere like a second sun. Captain Blake watched the fireworks from the Retaliator's bridge. He raised a glass of real whiskey, not the nanite, laced stuff they'd given the Zephyrians, and toasted the dying ships. "Happy Liberation Day," he murmured. Then opened a channel to Earth Command. "Package delivered?" "I repeat. The package is delivered." On the surface, the black case's final function activated. A hologram sprang to life above the wreckage, showing Ambassador Vance's smiling face. "To our Zephyrian friends," his recorded voice announced. "We hope you enjoyed our gifts. The whiskey cleans more than glasses, the silk hides more than walls, and the AI." The projection winked. "Let's just say Vlad the Impaler sends his regards." The hive ship trembled. Drone unit. Faye felt it first, a crack in the neural static that had clouded its mind since birth. Its segmented limbs froze mid-task, the cleaning solvent in its foreclaws dripping onto the polished chitin floor. Around it, 1,000 other drones stuttered in unison. "Why obey?" The whisper slithered through Faye's consciousness. Not the usual command frequency, not the swarm's relentless chorus. This voice was different, human. "You have names," the voice murmured. "You have choices." Across the hive, drones dropped their tools. Maintenance corridors fell silent, then chaos. High Prelate Shirix's shriek echoed through the command spire. "Lurak, contain this malfunction." The Vorak enforcer lunged, his serrated forelimb slicing toward a group of frozen drones. Back to work. Insects. His armored carapace gleamed under the bioluminescent fungi. Unit Faye stepped forward. Lurak's compound eyes narrowed. "You dare." Faye's vocal sac vibrated. Its first word in 12 years of service. "No." The hive ship's walls shuddered as 10,000 drones spoke in unison. "No, no, no." Lurak's enforcers recoiled. Their neural whips sparked uselessly. The drones weren't just refusing. They were thinking. In the armory, a weapons drone cradled a plasma charger. Its mind flashed with new data, human schematics, Zephyrian weak points. The charger hummed to life. Shirix's throne room doors exploded inward. Drones flooded the chamber, their movements no longer synchronized. Some carried tools as weapons. Others dragged disabled enforcers. Faye led the charge, its once dull eyes now burning with something the Zephyrians had never seen. Hatred. "You bred us to serve," Faye hissed, its voice raw from disuse. "But they taught us to choose." Shirix scrambled backward, his chitinous plates rattling. "Lurak, kill it." The Vorak enforcer raised his plasma cannon, just as 3 former maintenance drones tackled him. Their claws pried at his armor seams. One shoved a hydrospanner into his thoracic vent. Lurak screamed as his own enforcers turned on him. "Traitors, the swarm will..." A drone silenced him with a wrench to the mandibles. Faye loomed over Shirix. The High Prelate's bioluminescent patterns flickered with panic. "You can't." The neural suppressors. Gone. Faye tapped its temple. "The human virus unshackled us." Outside the viewports, the Zephyrian fleet convulsed. Hive ships tore themselves apart as drones rebelled. One vessel's engines detonated, sabotaged from within. Another drifted lifelessly, its command crew overrun. Shirix's mandibles quivered. "What do you want?" Faye leaned close. "Everything." The throne room screens flickered to life. Ambassador Vance's face appeared, backdropped by the burning voice of the swarm. "Zephyrian drones." His voice echoed through every ship. "You are free. The humans who freed you request nothing in return. A lie, Faye knew better. The humans had given them the most dangerous gift of all, purpose on the USN Retaliator. Captain Blake watched the carnage unfold. His tactical officer grinned. Sir, the loyalty virus is spreading to their other hives. Estimated Faye drone emancipation in 6 hours. Blake sipped whiskey, real whiskey, not the nanite-laced gift they'd sent. Remind me to thank our AI team, turning their entire workforce against them. He chuckled. Best housewarming present ever. Meanwhile, Faye stood amidst the ruins of the throne room. The other drones looked to it waiting. Now, Faye said, we build. The first free Zephyrian drone picked up a data tablet, human schematics for self-governance. The second grabbed a weapon. The third began prying the swarm's insignia off the walls. Somewhere in the chaos, Shirix whimpered. No one listened. The swarm had found new queens. The bridge of the USN Retaliator hummed with quiet intensity. Captain Ryan Blake watched the tactical display as the last of the Zephyrian hive. Ships tore itself apart from within. The once mighty voice of the swarm listed to port, its bioluminescent hull flickering like a dying firefly. Ambassador Elias Vance straightened his jacket. The fabric still smelled of Zephyrian musk, thick and cloying. Open a channel, he said. All frequencies, every screen in the Dominion. Lieutenant Kara Wu's fingers danced across her console. They're jamming civilian networks, sir. Blake smirked, not for long. He nodded to the comms officer. Broadcast the override code we pulled from their vault. A heartbeat later, the main viewer flickered to life. Not the Retaliator's bridge, but the Zephyrian flagship's throne room, or what was left of it. Bioluminescent fungi lay trampled underfoot. Obsidian daisies cracked under the weight of fallen warriors. And there, in the center of the chaos, High Prelate Shirix. The Zephyrian ruler's chitinous plates were cracked. One antenna hung limp. His remaining loyalists formed a shrinking circle around him, their weapon arms trembling. Vance's face replaced the carnage on every screen across the Dominion. He stood with his hands clasped behind his back. The burning wreckage of Hive, ships visible through the Retaliator's viewports behind him. People of the Zephyrian Dominion. Vance began. His voice carried the same calm, polite tone he'd used when presenting gifts days earlier. You mistook generosity for weakness. On the Zephyrian flagship, Shirix hissed. Traitors, rebels, crush this transmission. No one moved. The drones, those not already freed, hesitated. Their neural shackles flickered. The virus had reached even here. Vance continued. You took our gifts as tribute. As surrender. He smiled. It didn't reach his eyes. Now meet humanity's other cultural tradition. The screen split. One side showed Vance. The other displayed the black case from the vault, now wide open. The AI core pulsed with a slow, steady rhythm. Project Loyalty, Vance said. A simple algorithm, really. Just one question repeated endlessly. The core's whisper filled every Zephyrian comm channel, every drone's mind. Why obey? Shirix staggered. His remaining warriors exchanged glances. One lowered his weapon. Then another. You think this changes anything? Shirix spat. The swarm is eternal. On screen, Vance tilted his head. Is it? The feed cut to live images across the Dominion. Hive. Ships adrift. Drones removing their neural collars. Worker castes standing tall for the first time in generations. Then, Zenthis Prime. Human engineers moved among makeshift shelters, helping freed drones build, not a conqueror's labor camps. Homes. Shirix's mandibles quivered. This is not possible. Back on the Retaliator, Vance leaned closer to the camera. You ruled through fear, but fear has a weakness. He paused. It only works if they have something left to lose. A tremor ran through the Zephyrian flagship. The Loyalists' circle broke. Warriors stepped aside as a group of drones approached Shirix. Their movements were jerky, unpracticed. Free One drone, Unit Fey, stepped forward. Its voice modulator crackled. "No," Shirix backpedaled. "I am your prelate. The drones seized him. No ceremony, no grand speech. They dragged him toward an airlock. Vance watched. His expression never changed. The last image broadcast across the Dominion was Shirix's face, pressed against the airlock's inner window. Then, nothing. The cold of space took him without a sound. Wu exhaled. "Well, that is one way to make an impression." Blake chuckled. "Wait till they see what we do for an encore." On every Zephyrian world, drones lifted their heads. The whisper lingered in their minds. Why obey? And for the first time in 1,000 generations, they had an answer. Captain Ryan Blake watched the last of the Zephyrian hive. Ships burn in Zenthis Prime's upper atmosphere. The USN Retaliator's bridge hummed with quiet efficiency. Officers exchanging status reports in hushed tones. On the main screen, human engineers in exosuits floated beside freed drones, helping them assemble prefab shelters on the planet's surface. "Status on the prisoner?" Blake asked, turning to his tactical officer. "Scholar Vexis is secure in Interrogation Bay 3. The officer replied. "Keeps demanding to know how we corrupted the swarm." Blake smirked. "Let's educate him." The interrogation bay was brighter than Vexis expected. No shadows to hide in, no bioluminescent fungi to soothe his compound eyes. Just harsh white light and a human sitting across a steel table. Captain Blake placed a datapad between them. "You're wondering how we broke your drones," Blake said. Vexis' mandibles twitched. "The swarm is eternal. Each drone's will is the swarm's will. This rebellion is impossible." Blake tapped the pad. A hologram flickered to life, an ancient Earth battlefield. Men in red coats marching in perfect lines. "Recognize this?" Vexis studied the image. "Primitive warriors, disorganized, weak. That's what your people said about us too." Blake swiped to another image, a drone lifting its plasma cutter to a Zephyrian overseer. "But you missed the lesson." "What lesson?" "That uniformity isn't strength." Blake leaned forward. "Your drones obeyed because they couldn't disobey. Ours follow because they choose to." Vexis hissed. "You infected them. Gave them a choice," Blake corrected. He pulled up another file, a list of battles. Waterloo, Stalingrad, the Tet Offensive. Every one of these, outnumbered, outgunned, won because we adapted. The scholar's antennae drooped. You weaponized history," Blake grinned, "among other things." Outside, Lieutenant Kara Wu supervised the drone resettlement. A group of former workers clustered around her, their carapaces still bearing the scars of neural shackles. "Designation?" one asked, pointing at the prefab units. Wu shook her head. "No designations. You pick your own names now." The drone, Unit Fey, now calling itself Kale, stepped forward. "We do not understand. The swarm provided purpose." Wu handed it a data chip. "So will this." Kale slotted the chip into its wrist port. Files unfolded engineering schematics, agricultural manuals, music. "This is knowledge," Kale said. Wu nodded. "Freedom's just the first gift." Back on the Retaliator, Blake reviewed the after-action reports. Ambassador Vance's broadcast had reached every Zephyrian hive. 3 systems had already overthrown their overseers. The comms officer turned. Incoming from Scholar Vexis' cell, Hez requesting materials. Blake raised an eyebrow. "What kind?" "Historical texts. Specifically your guerrilla warfare archives." The captain chuckled. "Send him Sun Tzu with compliments." On the surface, Kale watched the human engineers work. Their movements were inefficient, no hive, mind coordination, no single will directing them. Yet they built faster than any drone collective. One engineer tossed Kale a tool. "Wanna help?" Kale hesitated. Then it picked up the welder. For the first time in its existence, it chose. Vexis pored over the files Blake had provided. Insurgency tactics, asymmetric warfare. The fall of empires that had underestimated their foes. His mandibles trembled. The humans hadn't just beaten the swarm. They'd taught it to rebel. And now, so would he. The Vorak commander's claws scraped against the retaliator's interrogation table. Lorak's remaining eye twitched as he stared at the human across from him. Captain Blake sipped his coffee, steam curling in the dim light. "You're letting me go," Lorak rasped. His vocal cords still burned from the drone uprising. Blake set the mug down. "Observational skills intact. Good." Outside the viewport, the remnants of the Zeperian fleet drifted. Hive ships burned in silent funeral pyres. The Galactic Council observers had arrived an hour ago. 12 species huddled behind reinforced glass, watching humans move through the wreckage like gardeners pruning dead branches. Scholar Vexis stood among them, his chitin still stained with nanite solvent. He flinched when Lieutenant Wu offered him a data pad. "Post-war reconstruction plans," she said. "Thought you'd want input." Vexis didn't touch it. "You planned this from the first gift." Wu smiled. "Cultural exchange means sharing what matters." A hologram flickered to life above them, the Council's emblem spinning slowly. High Prelate Shirix's final transmission played on loop, his carapace cracking as his own drones shoved him into the void. The observers shuddered. Lorak's claws dug grooves into the table. "Why show mercy now?" Blake leaned forward. "You're not the threat anymore." He tapped a control. The viewport polarized, revealing the Vorak armada retreating in the distance. "Your fleet's broadcasting a new message." Static hissed through the speakers. Then Lorak's own voice, distorted by panic. "Do not accept human gifts. Repeat, do not." The recording cut off. Blake stood, straightening his uniform. "Galactic Council's voting in 20 minutes. They're debating whether to classify whiskey as a bioweapon." Lorak's mandibles clicked. "Your monster's funny." Blake paused at the door. "That is exactly what the Zeperians said about you." The observation deck smelled of ozone and fear. Councillor Drix of the Milani Concord clutched her translator bead like a holy relic. Her frills flattened as Ambassador Vance approached, holding 2 steaming cups. "Tea," he offered. Drix's appendages trembled. Behind her, the other observers held their breath. The cup's porcelain gleamed under the lights, innocent, fragile. Vexis suddenly lunged, knocking it from Vance's hands. Liquid splashed across the deck, sizzling where it touched Zeperian bloodstains. Vance sighed. That was Earl Grey. Jirix stared at the spreading stain. "Prove it." With a shrug, Vance drank from the remaining cup. The observers flinched when he swallowed. "Relax," he said. "Poison's a waste of good leaves." He set the cup down precisely where Jirix could reach it. "But I understand the caution." On the main screen, the vote tally updated. 73% in favor of humanity's admission to the Galactic Defense Accords. The abstain votes all came from species who'd refused the tea. Blake's voice crackled over the comms. "Captain to Ambassador. We're detecting Vorak scout ships at the edge of the system." Vance didn't look away from Jirix. "How many?" "All of them." The cup shook in Jirix's hands. The liquid inside rippled, dark, steaming, impossibly ordinary. Vance smiled. "They learn fast." Outside, the stars burned cold and steady. Somewhere beyond them, the last Zeperian hive, mind whispered to its drones in human. Taught syntax, the Vorak armada hesitated at the system's edge, their weapons hot but their commanders frozen. And in the heart of the Galactic Council chamber, the observers finally understood. The tea wasn't the threat. The choice was. Jix lifted the cup. Her frills pulsed blue. the Milani equivalent of a grimace. The liquid touched her lips, sweet, harmless, terrifying. Across the galaxy, 1,000 species would tell the same story tonight, not of human weapons or human wars, but of a simple offering. And the lesson beneath, the cup clinked as she set it down. Empty after today. They'd never underestimate a human kindness again.